invited them to attend.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
All right. As Dr. Atkins mentioned, I'm Kelly Barnard. I work for the Office of Accessibility Services, and I'm the closed captioning coordinator for the office. That's a position that I took over recently. We've always offered closed captioning as an accommodation for students who self-identify as deaf or hard of hearing. We can provide real-time transcription in the classroom. We can also provide closed captioning. That's just making sure that anything that's presented as far as media in a classroom has accurate, effective captions. So we've always sort of done that for the 10 years I've worked there. We've done that. What happened recently with the pandemic is that we went from receiving about 75 closed captioning requests per semester to 750 requests overnight when everything went online. At that point, we had to get a little creative and figure out some solutions of how we were going to handle that much content. What we were able to do is hire a group of student workers through their financial aid and take on some student volunteers who we were able to train to help us take care of that load. This semester, we're headed toward about 750, 850 requests as well, and we're working through those. There are lots of benefits to captions. I've just listed a few here. Do you use captions? Does anyone use captions typically? I use them all the time. I like to watch British crime procedural, so I'm always turning them on because I can't quite catch all those details. So I use them all the time and critique them a lot too. So typically we would use closed captions for people who are, again, deaf and hard of hearing. We also know that for any viewer, it can help improve focus, help with retention, even in children or people for whom English is a second language. It can help improve reading skills. And of course, when you're in that noisy or distracting environment, captions can be really helpful. Here I just list components of closed captioning, and that might be a little bit obvious. You have the video and the audio, which you will have made yourself. You also then have the corresponding text, and that's what we're going to be working with. We want to marry this corresponding text with the audio component of the video to make sure that everything lines up perfectly so that a person who's not able to hear that audio is able to experience the video in the same way just by reading the text along with the video. I'm going to show you two ways to caption today. One way that you can do that is from working from a script that you've created of the speech that you're given. So if you have that speech, you're already a step ahead, because a big part of captioning is to make sure that everything that's spoken in the video is precisely noted in the captions themselves. So if you've already got the script, you're a step ahead. You also want to make sure that the captions include correct grammar, capitalization, punctuation, and that everything is heard correctly. You don't want to have a word that's incorrect that's going to throw off the meaning of the video for a viewer. So working from that script makes it a little more accurately. Line breaks are a huge part of captioning, which we'll see in a little bit. If you work from a script, that can be a little bit easier, and it can also save a lot of time as opposed to editing a rough version of a transcript or just working from nothing and sort of typing along as the video plays. I'm going to break away from the PowerPoint now and just sort of go into some other documents, and we'll talk about how to work with that script if you have it, and then how to get into the YouTube editor itself. Does anyone have any questions at this point, or? So on the left of my screen here, I have a complete transcript of a video that I've worked on. It's verbatim. The only thing that you omit in captioning is false starts, things like that. You would include them if you were trying to characterize the speaker to sort of indicate that they're speaking that way as part of their personality. I always use the example of Piglet from Winnie the Pooh. He's incredibly anxious, so they intentionally include the fact that he's stammering. Otherwise, we take those out. It just puts too much content on the screen for the reader, so we want to try to remove those. Otherwise, the transcript is really faithful to what's being spoken in the video. So I have my transcript here. On the right side of the screen here, you can see that I have gone through this transcript and put line breaks in. About every 42 to 50 characters, I want to try to break these lines. And you saw some rules in the guide, or you will see some rules in the guide about how to do line breaks. You never want to separate a first and last name. For example, I would never end a caption with Kelly and then start Barnard on the next line. That's difficult for the reader to track. You also want to keep adjectives or other descriptors with the word it's describing. So I think the example in the guide is little red Corvette. So if you could possibly keep those together, it just makes it easier for the viewer to read. The other big rule is you don't want to end a sentence with the beginning letter of the next sentence. It's just too difficult to track. So really you're sort of breaking them at logical, intuitive places. Again, just about 42 to 50 characters. You don't have to count those. If you've got one good line that looks like it's the right length, you can sort of use that as a guide as you go through your transcript and break the rest. So at this point, I want to go in and show you how you're going to actually get into YouTube itself. Sorry, I can't see the top of my screen. Okay, so you will be given an invitation to your Mix email. It's just going to look like this when you open it. You'll just hit accept invitation, and that takes you right into the YouTube channel that's been shared with you. So I've already accepted my invitation previously. Yours will look much the same, but you're just going to click accept and then click go to channel. And you land right here. This is the channel that's been created for you. It has all of your content. That's the only thing that you're really accessing from this page. At that point, you want to find the video that you're going to work on. So that would be the title of the video that you're supposed to caption for this class. In my example, I know that my video has the word synaptic in it, so I'm going to go ahead and search for that. And I find it here. Just click on that.
Kelly, can I say something here?
Sure, yeah, sure.
When you, I think I sent you all the invitations to my YouTube channel, right? Did you get those? Yes, no, yes, okay. No? Okay, double check, because I should have, how many, show me by your, raise your hand. Did you receive it so that I'm sure? Okay, so so just make sure you check your email, because I did send the invitations. And when you get into mine, I have playlists, groups of playlists, and yours are going to, you don't have one yet because I haven't put anything on there yet for you, but yours will have PSA C5 for cohort 5. Audra's will have cohort C1, and Gianna's will have C2 for cohort 2. So first you're going to look for the playlist that has your cohort in it. And yours will be easy because the first speech up there is the only speech you have. The students from last semester already have 6 speeches up there. So they have to go through and look at the different playlists. And I will send you a list of the playlists and the titles, and so you will see exactly what you're looking for, okay? All right, go ahead, Kelly.
Sure. Okay, so now that we're in the channel, you want to look to the left-hand side of the screen. And you want to go down here to subtitles. Just click that. Okay, at this point, it's going to show you that YouTube has already had enough time with this video that it's created auto captions. Those auto captions can be useful in some situations. They don't meet the requirements that we have for accommodations because they don't include correct capitalization, punctuation. They often mishear things or misspell things. So those aren't quite adequate when we're looking at a clear, concise, accurate version of captions. We'll come back to those in a little bit for other purposes though. What I want to do is make use of that transcript that I have that I've line broken. So to do that, I'm going to click Add Language, and I want to select English. That just creates another version of captions that would be available in this video. And I want to come back here to the transcript that I showed you earlier that's fully corrected and line broken. Just going to Control A, Control C to copy the text. And I'll click add. So here's the video itself and all the controls. I'll go over those in a minute. What you want to do with your transcript is click on this auto sync option, and you're just going to paste the transcript right in here. At that point, you'll just click on it, click assign timings, and YouTube's going to go through and try to match your transcript with roughly what it thinks it would take to sync it up with this video that I'm working on. So here's the transcript. The line breaks are duplicated for the most part over here. To the right of those, I have the initial timestamps that YouTube has applied to it. You can actually edit these timestamps if you want to. I'll show you a better way to do that. That's a little tedious. Down here, you have the player controls, so you can play and pause here, rewind 10 seconds, go forward 10 seconds. You can control your volume with this button. And then a useful feature here, if you click this gear, you can control the speed at which you're watching the video. I find it useful a lot of times to work at about half speed if I'm doing really detailed adjustments of time, or if I just want to slow things down a little bit. It makes it a bit easier. I will say that before you turn in an assignment or finish captioning completely, it's best to watch the video at normal speed. Sometimes you'll lose a little bit of detail if you're only working at half speed or double speed. So it's best to check it in the end how the viewer is going to typically watch that video. Down here, you have a zoom in and out feature that zooms in and out of this play line down here. Sometimes it can be a little difficult to see, so it's helpful if you can go in and out to make these fine adjustments. And I say that because you will be adjusting the timing of the captions down here. Each little box down here is a duplicate of what you see up here with your transcript and the time stamps beside of it. So if I felt like this caption needed to start a little bit later, I can just shift this box. I'm just grabbing the edge of it, holding my mouse button down and dragging it. That's how you're going to work on timing the video. So what's spoken in the video has a caption with the words that are on the screen at the right time. Sometimes when you sync it, it'll stay on a little bit too long, or you just need to tweak some little adjustments. So just remember that you can adjust the boxes down here by moving the edges of these. So what you'll do to edit captions is really just listen to the video. Okay, you're listening to the video, you're watching what's happening over here in this box, and you want to make your adjustments to both what's on the screen, where the lines are broken since they don't transfer exactly perfectly, timings, all of those things that make up a caption. So in that audio, he ended with in 2 minutes or less. So I'd like to get rid of this next line. I want that to move down to the caption box below. So the keystroke to do that is just put your cursor at the end of the line and hit enter. And you'll see that that bit of text moved down to the box below. So anytime you have two caption boxes that are touching down here, if you hit enter, it's just going to join that text to the box below it. If I change my mind, I didn't actually want to do that, I can just make sure my cursor's here at the start of this line of text and hit backspace, and we'll go right back to the beginning. So again, just enter to move that line of text down to the caption below it. So you'll watch the video all the way through, making sure that text is on the screen when it's appropriate. You can see here that I have 3 lines of text on the screen. That's not what we want. You can have 1 line of text and that's perfectly fine. It's okay to have 2 lines of text, but what you don't want to have is 3 lines of text at a time. So 1 is good, 2 is good, you don't want 3. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is sometimes you can get to a point where you have a lot of text on the screen at one time and it can make it difficult to do that fine adjusting that you need to do. So just to create an example, I'm going to shift this box down to the next line of text. So you can see by hitting enter, now I have a lot of things that are happening here on the screen. There's too much text there. The The more I keep hitting enter, it's just going to keep adding more and more text to the screen. So I want to show you why that's happening and what you can do to fix it. So I want to zoom out down here and show you what's happening on the timeline. Every time you hit enter, if these lines of text are touching down here, it's going to just push the text onto the next one. So we'll do it one more time. It's just adding more and more text to the same caption box. If you're trying to edit and you just keep hitting enter, it's going to break it, but it's just going to keep creating that same sort of problem over and over again. So what you need to do to fix that is zoom out so that you can see more of this line. And you want to scoot this box. The blue box is touching the gray box. You just want to scoot that over slightly to the left so that there's a space between them. If these boxes are touching and you keep hitting enter, it's just going to keep compounding the problem on itself. You're going to add more and more text to the screen. So you'll see that I'm just going to sort of break as an example. This probably isn't where you would actually break it. But now that I come up here and hit enter, there's still a lot of text. I'm going to keep working through that. Sorry, my screen's not letting me work right now, sorry. So sorry about that, my enter key just stopped working. All right, we'll try another example here. Okay, so again, because there's a gap between this caption box down here, when I hit enter, it creates a new caption, but it's not marrying it to the caption beside of it. So just to make that point, I'll bring this one back. Here, I've got a lot of text on the screen because they're close together. To fix that, just make sure that you have a gap on the timeline between them. So if you're ending up with a bulk text, really just make sure that there's a gap in the timeline there. And then you can separate them. So again, you're just going through the entire video, matching up text with what's being said. You want to try to keep text on the screen for at least 1 second. That's typically long enough for a reader to read a fairly short sentence. No longer than 6 seconds. If you have text lingering on the screen for longer than that, you're probably not transitioning correctly. So that guideline is you can have 1 to 2 lines of text on the screen, and you want the caption to stay on the screen for about 1 to 6 seconds, no less than that and no longer than that. So again, just working all the way through the video, you might notice that you misspelled something or missed some punctuation. Now's the time to sort of add that back in as well. Along the way, you certainly want to hit save draft, just like you would if you were writing a paper. The more often that you hit save draft, the less likely you are to lose work. I've had coworkers who have been through an hour-long video just to get to the end to realize that they didn't save it appropriately, and it was a whole day's worth of work just completely lost. So use that frequently. Those are really the main functions. Again, just editing text over here, dragging these boxes to make sure that the text is on the screen for the right amount of time. And if nothing's being said, if there's silence, you should create a gap so nothing's showing on the screen at that time. So it's good if there's silence that you represent that on the screen with no caption on the screen as well. Does anyone have any questions at this point? I know I sort of went through that quickly. Okay. So when you finish the video, you've gone through it, maybe you've even listened to it at that normal speed again, and everything looks like it's matching correctly. You just want to click publish. That's what makes it so that it can be viewed. So then if someone pulls up your video, they're going to see the corrected captions there. Now you can see here in this instance that those automatic captions they're still here. If you don't want those there, it's okay to come over here, click these 3 vertical lines and click delete. Make sure you're on the automatic captions. You don't want to delete the English captions that you just created. What that does, it just makes it so that a viewer only has the option of watching your corrected captions. They're not even going to see those auto captions anymore. I do want to show you one more thing that you can actually work from the auto captions. That's an option as well. So here on the screen is another example where I'm not going to paste in the transcript that I've broken. I'm going to work from the captions that YouTube has automatically given me. You're going to do that much the same way. The first time you go in, you'll click duplicate and edit. That's just giving you a file to work from. Looks like this one's not going to load for me. That's okay. Okay. Let's try this one. So you click duplicate and edit. The first time you come in, it will ask you to assign the timings. That's the same thing that it did when you auto synced your transcript. So you'll just allow it to create those captions. Here you're doing much the same thing. You'll notice that there's no capitalization, no punctuation. You're just going to watch this video through, listen to what the speaker's saying, and while you're correcting the timings, you're going to correct capitalization, punctuation, line breaks, all that at the same time. It's perfectly fine to do it this way. It's just a little bit more time consuming because you don't have that advantage of bringing over your well-written transcript and putting it in here. Everything works the same way though. Again, just adjusting your timings by moving these bars, creating gaps down here if nothing's being said. And remember, if you have that big bulk of text on your screen, just to come down here by zooming in and out and add a separation between the caption boxes. I'm not gonna publish this. So really that's it. The best way to learn to do this is just to go in and sort of mess around with the controls, figure out what works best for you. If it seems like it's taking a long time, you're probably doing it right because it's tedious. You're just sort of going back and forth. If you're adjusting a line of text, you might have to adjust the timing as well. So a change in text results in a change of timing, and that does sort of take some time. But yeah, I think the best way that I found is just to go in and play with it. It's incredibly difficult to mess anything up on YouTube. Even if you were to somehow, I don't know how you would do it, but if you deleted the transcript entirely, there's a way to get it back. You can let it go through the auto timing process again, or you can upload your video again. Try not to delete the video, but that's also pretty difficult to do. So. Does anyone have any questions at this point or anything I could go over again?
I heard from one of the PSAs, I had told them that whenever they did it for the first time to let me know how it went. And so Lowell Periscandola emailed and he said that he went ahead and used his own script and copied and pasted it, just as Kelly showed you at the beginning of this. He said that it took him about an hour by the time he went through and revised and made any revisions and did the timing and so forth. So about an hour that way. Kelly says that it probably takes a little bit longer when it's not your script because there you're having to add all the punctuation and the capitalization. So that's the beauty of having your own, but it's up to you. Like I said, as long as it's accurate, I don't care. Whatever works for you is fine with me. Now, what other questions do you have for her? Because I know what's going to happen. She's going to leave and you're going to ask me, and I am not the guru. Okay. I am not the closed captioning editor coordinator. So can you think of questions that you have for her? Go ahead, Matthew.
What's the rule that you all have if we're talking about like numerics, like we're doing numbers? Should it be spelled out or should it be like written out as the number itself?
That's a good question. We do spelling out 1 through 10, and then 11 and above, you would use numerical. I always tell people just be consistent throughout. If you're gonna go one way, make sure that you're consistent throughout the whole video. And it could be that Dr. Atkins has a different point of view on that, but yeah, 1 through 10.
No, I agree. Even in teaching writing, if you, whatever you do, however you start, be consistent with it throughout. Same idea. And actually, that was a good question. And I just printed off that manual that I posted for you all on eCampus that Kelly developed. And those types of things are there. So it talks about numerals. She talks about capitals, line breaks, and so forth. So make sure that it doesn't take long to read it. It's just really the basic information highlighted. She's got it set up very well. So look that over first. And I'm going to go ahead and post this on your eCampus also. So you have today's training session, plus you have the link to the one that she did last week for the other cohort. And you've already got the manual on there. So you should be good to go. You'll just have to remember to read that first, look it over. Okay. What other questions?
So my computer died over the weekend and I don't know when I'm gonna be able to get it serviced. And so I'm working from an iPad right now. So I'm wondering if this is something that I should go to the library for to do, or if it's something that I can do pretty easily on an iPad.
I honestly am not sure about that. I've never tried to do it that way. I would say give it a shot and see if it works for you. I've only done it on a laptop or a desktop, but it's possible.
You have a keyboard for your iPad, Kaylee?
I do. I picked one up. I'm at the library now. Like, it's not a big deal. I don't live very far from the library, but it's just like, I'm wondering if it's something I should definitely plan for. Or
You could try. I don't know either. You could give it a whirl and let us know if that works. I don't know.
I think if you have a mouse and a keyboard, it's probably fine.
Yeah, I think the keyboard is obviously the important part there. So, okay, what else? What other questions do you have? That's it. Everybody knows everything? Okay, go ahead. Good.
If we're doing in our speech, we have some type of motions going on. Is there any way that we're supposed to indicate? Like, is that something that has to be written out, like with like an asterisk or?
So if you were going to indicate something, you always want to use square brackets. I didn't really go into that because probably you're not going to have music or sound effects in your speech, maybe. Yeah, anytime you're going to indicate something like that, you just use square brackets and use those consistently throughout. So if a song's playing in some video that you do in the future, you want to put upbeat music playing or depressing music. You can just use a descriptor of the type of music. You can even just say music if you're really not sure how to do it. Some stuff's really canned. You just want to indicate that music is playing. They shouldn't be watching for a caption at that point. Same with sound effects. I always tell people not to get so descriptive and so creative, just to sort of keep it bombs dropping. We often do like World War II videos and we try to keep it at that level of description. If you're indicating sort of your tone, exclamation points and things like that, we don't typically indicate the speaker's tone with that. It's really just for sound effects and music, but again, you could use that punctuation to note that.
And of course, your nonverbal communication. So if you're really happy about something, you hopefully look like that. And if you're serious, you look like that. So your nonverbal is going to be an important part of this. You can't closed caption that, but your face is your closed captioning for that. But Matthew, was there anything specific that did we answer your question, or is there something more specific you can ask?
No, I think that was answered well. I was just trying to think if I were to apply it to maybe something in the future.
Okay.
I don't think it was really specific to this.
All right, good. Who else? Who else has a question? All right. Well, Kelly, thank you.
I have a question.
We appreciate this.
I have a question.
Yes, go.
Sorry, I waited because it was doing that weird like wear your mask thing in the library and I didn't want to turn my mic on. But I was gonna ask if you have if you're using a PowerPoint, is there a certain way we should do this so that, or like, I guess what I'm asking is if you're showing the PowerPoint in the screen, if the closed captions are going to interfere with the PowerPoint, are they going to like cover the content, or is that something not really a big deal?
That's a great question.
That's a really good question. So within YouTube, you can actually move the captions around the screen. So you can use your cursor to sort of move them back and forth, and viewers typically know that they're able to move things. You can also turn it off and just be reading a transcript, which a lot of people know if they're going to be relying on those captions. So for your purposes, you're just creating the captions and sort of letting the viewer figure out how to make those adjustments as necessary. Sometimes you might, if you're really worried about the content on the bottom of that PowerPoint slide, you might opt to make 1-line captions instead of 2, as long as you can keep it within that 1 to 6 seconds rule. So I sometimes do that if there's some data at the bottom of a slide that I don't want to obscure, because sometimes we might take a caption file and put it on a different platform, which is much more complicated, but that is